Okay guys, we're going to begin the second part of this lesson. So notice that this is equal to 4/5 and this cosine is equal to negative 12/13. So don't forget that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's my opposite and this is my hypotenuse, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have that going on. We also have that this alpha is in between these two. And so think about that. That's the first quadrant. So alpha is in quadrant 1 and beta is in between pi over 2 and pi. So it's going to be in quadrant 2. So that looks kind of weird, but that's all those mean. So I think what I want to do is just start with the alpha and kind of make a triangle that just deals with the alpha portion of it. So I know that that this angle is 4 for the opposite and 5 for the hypotenuse. And so let's see, I have 25 minus 16, that's 9, square root of 9 is 3. So that's that missing piece. So let's go over to the beta side. And it was in quadrant 2. So we've got that going on. Let's see, and that was 12/13. I gotta figure out where to put that negative. So hypotenuse can never be negative, so it's that. So I have 169 and then minus 144, that's 25. So that missing length is 5. So I think that we can do everything using these two things from what we just created. So I'm gonna start off with this one. So I'll do the sine. I'm just copying this down right now. So I've got that going on. And so I'm gonna just copy down that formula. Okay, so we have that. So now I'm gonna actually fill in like what is the sine of alpha, what is the cosine of beta. So let's go ahead, I'll do this in a different color. So sine and cosine for this one. Maybe this might help us go a little bit faster. So the sine is gonna be 4/5, the cosine is gonna be 3/5, and then over here, the sine is going to be 5/13. Oops, that's a 13. And the cosine is going to be negative 12/13. Okay, so when I go over here, I'm just going to say 4/5 times negative 12/13, and then plus 5/13/3/5. Okay, so now the math is going to be really easy. So I'm just going to multiply across. So 48/65. So I'm just cleaning it up, and that is my final answer. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to focus on the cosine. So my first step is just to copy down the formula. Like that. And I'm just gonna fill in what I have. So let's see, I'll do this. No, I'll just keep the blue. So cosine of alpha is 3/5. Like that. And again, I'm getting all of these from what I created up here with like my triangles. So again, I'm just going to multiply these together, and I get negative 36/65 and 20/65. So when I combine these, I get negative 16/65 for my final answer. Sorry. Okay, so that's that one where you actually like use the triangles. Let's go to another problem. So, oh, here, I don't know, that should not, there it is. So we're gonna look at this one. So this is the first time that we're using tangent. So if I can remind you to go back to that first page, tangent was a weirdo. So what we're gonna find is we're going to have like fractions within fractions. That's the worst part of this. So I'll show you as we go along. So 195, I saw it as the tangent of 45 plus 150. If you use different numbers, that's okay. Again, we should turn it out the same. So I'm gonna use a tangent formula that they add it together. So I'm just literally copying it down and applying to the values that I have. No math is going into my brain right now. That's 150, that looks weird. Okay, so I have that going on. So now I'm just gonna clean it up. So think about tangent of 45, that's square root of, oh no, I'm sorry, that's sine of 45. Okay, so let's see, tangent of 45 is square root of 3. I am such a dork, I am so sorry. Let's do this again, I did tangent of 60. Tangent of 45 is bottom over top, so it's 1. Ugh, that was terrible. Okay, and tangent of 150, so let's think about 150. That's a 30-degree reference angle in quadrant 2. So that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, so let's do this correctly. So tangent, that's going to be square root of 3 over 3. And it's in that quadrant 2, so it's going to be negative. Okay, so on the bottom, I have 1 minus, okay, tangent of 45, again, that's 1. And then tangent of 150, we already figured that out. That's half. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of clean it up a little bit. So I have 1 minus square root of 3 over 3, and then I have 1 plus square root of 3 over 3. Now, notice that I have, like, oops, I have a fraction within a fraction. So I think what I wanna do is multiply everything through. So basically what I'm doing is I'm multiplying this whole thing by 3 over 3, which is 1, so I'm not changing the value of it. But when I multiply this whole thing by 3, I get 3 minus square root of 3. Does that make sense? So if I multiply this by 3, those 3's cancel out there. So I'm left with 3 minus square root of 3. And then on the bottom, so I'm going to take this 3, I'm just going to move it over here. So I'm multiplying everything through by 3, and I get 3 plus square root of 3. Okay, so that cleaned it up a little bit, but I have to, I'm gonna come down here because I have to rationalize it because I have that yucky square root on the bottom. So remember, to get that out of the bottom, we're gonna multiply by its conjugate. So 3 minus square root of 3. And I'm gonna do the same thing on top. So let this guy be your guide, not this guy up here. So if you remember, if you multiply by conjugate, so I'm gonna do something easy, like x plus 2 times x minus 2. So what happens is when I distribute everything, I get x squared plus 2x minus 2x minus 4. These middle terms, when I multiply them together, they will always cancel out. So really all I'm multiplying together are the first two and the last two, because everything else will cancel out. So when I apply that concept over here, when I multiply the first two, I get 9. When I multiply these two together, so I get positive square root of 3 times negative square root of 3 is going to be negative 3. So what's nice about conjugates is they're used a lot in these kind of problems with square roots because it cancels out the square root. So that's really nice. Okay, the yucky part about this is on top, it's not going to end up nicely. So I'm just going to distribute everything. So I get 9, I'm going to go here. So I get minus 3 square root of 3. And I'm going to get the same thing on top again. And then I've got minus square root of 3 times minus square root of 3. That's actually a plus 3. So I'm just going to take this from here and clean it up. So 9 plus 3, that's 12. And then negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6 square root of 3 over 9 minus 3 is 6. So again, I'm just gonna make this a little bit nicer. So I'll separate it out so that it looks like this. And so this becomes 2 minus square root of 3. And that is my final answer. Ugh. Let's do another one like that. And I'm gonna do one that it's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna look like the same way, except I'm gonna make it a subtraction problem, and I'll show you, because remember I said that you can use different numbers here. So I'll show you one that's subtraction. So same number, but this time I'm gonna use that. So I'm gonna follow that formula. So I'm really not doing anything new. Okay, and then I'm just gonna kind of evaluate, oops, sorry, that's 240. Then I'm just gonna evaluate what I have. So 240, tangent of 240. Okay, let's see, that's down there. That's 60 degrees in quadrant 3. So I know that tangent is gonna be positive, and tangent of 60 degrees is square root of 3. Tangent of 45 degrees is 1. And then again, I've got square root of 3 times 1. So it looks like that. Okay, so I will, again, clean it up a little bit. So I have square root of 3 minus 1 over 1 plus square root of 3. So at least I don't have the yucky fractions, but I am gonna have to rationalize the denominator. So down here, I'm gonna end up with 1 minus 3. And then up here, let's see, I have square root of 3. I have minus 1 right there. I have minus 3, and then plus square root of 3. So it should look something like that. Okay, so I have, let's see, that's minus 4. Plus 2 square root of 3, right there, I'm just combining my terms, and then over negative 2. And again, I'm just gonna separate it so I can kind of clean it up a little bit. So that is a positive 2, and that's a negative 1, so I'm gonna say minus square root of 3. So it looks like that. Okay, we're gonna do one more in this video that has to do with cotangent. So think about cotangent, that's a reciprocal of tangent. So whatever you use, we're just gonna flip that fraction. So like the first thing that I noticed, I think we had one similar to this. I'm gonna look at it like this. I'm gonna set you up, and then I'm gonna turn you loose for a little bit. So the formula that I'm gonna use is the subtraction tangent formula, except I'm just gonna flip it to make it cotangent. So I'm gonna push pause, well, you're gonna push pause, I guess, and go through your work. When you come back, I'll have it all answered. Okay, so this is my work for, I don't think it'll fit all in one place, but this is my work for the problem, and you should have ended up with negative 2 minus square root of 3 if you did it correctly. If you didn't, really pay attention on my work and see if you can't figure out your mistake. So that's it for the second video. We will return shortly, and I will do the third video. Thank you. Bye.